Welcome to our 5-minute Bible study in the School of Prayer. We've spent quite a few sessions talking about prayer. We've been in this study for about 7 weeks now. And I know we've learned an awful lot about prayer, at least I hope we have. And we've got just a couple of more sessions in this school together before we move on to another Bible study. But I want to read to you a few verses from the book of Colossians that talks about how wonderful the life of prayer should be for us. Listen to these verses from the book of Colossians chapter 4. Paul says, "Devote yourselves to prayer. Be watchful, be thankful, and pray for us as well, that God might open a door for our message, that we might proclaim the mystery of Christ, for which I'm in chains. Pray that I may proclaim it clearly as I should." You notice those words of Paul, devote yourselves to prayer. And I hope one thing that we've learned out of these sessions together in our School of Prayer is that we've created a desire to be devoted to prayer. But now, devotion comes from a number of sources. I have discovered over the years that many Christians, they know they should pray, but it's more of a duty than it is a pleasure. And I believe that you can only be devoted to prayer if you find great joy in your praying. If it's just a work to be done, if it's just a job you have to perform, if it's just a duty you know you should do, you'll probably do it, you'll pray, but you probably won't be devoted to it. I want you to be devoted to prayer. And that will come out of finding great joy in praying. And so keeping in mind all that we've learned in our School of Prayer, these next few sessions, which will wrap this school up for us, I want to talk about how we make it a joyful experience. So we long to pray and we are devoted to it. Now, there are at least 3 things that ought to be true for you if it's going to be devotion, if it's going to be a joy. First, you have to learn to pray in such a way that you actually experience the presence of God. I want you in your prayers to experience Him and to hear His voice. A lot of Christians, when they pray, they know they're talking to God, but they really don't experience that He is close, and they never have an experience of hearing Him speak to them. I want you to have those things. And so we're going to talk about, in these next few sessions, how you actually experience His presence in your prayers and how you hear His voice when you pray. Also, the second thing to make this a joyful and a devotion for you is to learn to use your imagination in prayer. I'm going to give you some tips on how you use your sanctified imagination. Sometimes as Christians, we are afraid to use our imagination, and that kind of hinders us. It kind of hinders us. We tend to think the imagination is almost a bad thing, but it's not. It's the gift that God gives to us to envision things and to see beyond just the purely natural. And so we're going to give you some tips on how to use your sanctified imagination to deepen your experience of God and to make your prayers more real. And then third, I want you to learn how to truly find God's will being done for you in your praying. I want to give you some tips on how you see answers to prayer coming and God's will being accomplished. When you see that your prayers are linked with the will of God being done on this world, you'll find great joy in praying, and you'll be devoted to it. In the Lord's Prayer, we always pray, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And so I'm going to give you some tips on how you can see the will of God being accomplished through the means of your praying, and that will increase your joy in praying. So we're going to talk for the next few sessions together as we wrap up our School of Prayer these next few days, how we can experience the presence of God in our praying, how we can hear His voice. 2, how we can use our sanctified imagination to help us experience God. And 3, how we can see God's will being accomplished through our praying. So those are the things we'll kind of focus on for these these next few days as we wrap up our school of prayer. And all of these things will help us to be devoted to the life of prayer. So be with us for our next few sessions as we talk about those kind of things and show how the prayer will be an absolute joyous devotion for us. Okay, I hope you have a great day today. I hope you have some wonderful times of prayer. And I'll see our next session together in our 5-minute Bible study, The School of Prayer.